Every business has an ambition. PayPal Open is the platform designed to help you grow into yours. With business loans so you can expand and access to hundreds of millions of PayPal customers worldwide. And your customers can pay all the ways they want with PayPal, Venmo, Pay Later, and all major cards, so you can focus on scaling up. When it's time to get growing, there's one platform for all business. PayPal Open. Grow today at paypalopen.com. Loans subject to approval in available locations.
Good morning, everybody. It is July 3rd. Welcome to the Victoria Real Estate Show with Jane Johnston and
Andrew Plank with the Vibe Real Estate Group and Rolla Page and
Jen Lowe, mortgage broker with Dominion Lending Center, Modern Mortgage Group.
Yes. How did your week go, you guys?
So busy.
Very busy.
Good. That's good. So
I'm talking to mortgage brokers, realtors, lawyers, everybody is busy. And the stats do mention that we did have an uptick.
Are you finding that there are more sort of catchy things happening in real estate these days?
More what things?
Tetchy, like kind of like irritated, financing is taking longer, or there are requests for amendments for stuff and all that.
Okay.
Yes.
I think everything's getting, you know what I'm noticing, and this don't get me on this soapbox, but contracts and legislation's gotten so complicated that like there are so many different places people need to initial or not initial on a contract that it is so hard to track. And you're spending all your time double and triple and quadruple checking only to find you still missed something. And then the software misses things too. You set up the software signing. Anyway, that's like, it's bad.
Do you use Authentisign?
I have used a different program, and I've just recently switched to Authentisign because that's what my brokerage would prefer I use. I don't like it.
Well, I use DocuSign, and I do not have that pre-programmed signing because I'm just afraid I'm going to miss something. Mm-hmm. So what I do is I go down and then I go back from the bottom up. But I'm also finding like I'm getting amendments for stuff that I think, 2 or 3 years ago, we wouldn't even have been talking about this, but now we are. And we're getting stuck on little things like we did when we first started in real estate, like $2,500 or whatever, that I know is important to the buyer or seller because it's a moving cost or, but
right.
It just feels like comparatively speaking for the price of the houses that we're dealing with, that this seems like nickel and diming is a good word.
Well, there's the whole win the battle but lose the war kind of thing that needs to be part of the conversation, because sometimes, and I just had this yesterday with a negotiation where we were $1,000 apart, and I said to the buyer, I said, at this point, after we've gone back and forth quite a few times, I'm going to recommend you just accept this rather than countering one more time, because we're going to lose all our goodwill with the seller if you have to go back to them something later. But
right.
you always want it to line up on the side for your client's best interest, but you can't have it as a win-lose scenario for one party on all the time.
I totally agree with that, and I totally agree with winning the battle as opposed to winning the little fights along the way, because I think it does speak to goodwill. It also like how you present it is important as well.
It's all part of a process.
It's all part of a process. So maybe some training with buyers before you even get into that. I don't know.
On the financing side, it's definitely taking longer. So normally when we have, like 5 business days, so a full week for your financing condition, what I've seen this past few weeks here is we're getting that approval on, day 4. And now we have to order an appraisal as a rush. So that's, and I never, one of the things is, oh, we'll just get the appraisal prior to getting the approval. I don't like to do that, as every lender is slightly different on their appraisal approval requirements.
Right. So if you get the appraisal first and then the lender has a different requirement than that appraiser brought in, then you've just wasted that appraisal.
Yeah.
I got it. Okay. But I think what we're seeing here and what we're talking about is when the market starts to get busier, then everybody's desk starts to pile up with the non-priority tasks, I guess you might say. We're doing triage and just dealing with what we can in front of us. But even the lenders, everyone else, once we have this kind of like everything is trying to fit through a narrow funnel, the blocking point is wherever it's at. Now, when it's a slower market, people can be taking these things off their desk and getting an approval within 4 days. When you've got a pile of approvals to approve, or a pile of whatever it is you're dealing with, it's a lot harder to get it done in that same timeline. So we're condensed into the perfect storm.
I'm also wondering if maybe it's a staffing issue at the bank level, whereas before, during COVID, where they were processing maybe 800 applications a month, now they went down to 400 or whatever, and they reduced their staff by half. And then when we then increase the amount of applications, we don't have enough staff to deal with it.
And vacation, people are on vacation now. It's,
Yeah. It's very hard to staff and hire for, do you staff and hire for the busiest potential times, but then they're sitting around twiddling their thumbs until that happens, and so you're overpaying your staff? Or do you, when your skeleton crew, when the times get busy, you're overwhelmed. This is actually a challenge a lot of realtors have with hiring an assistant, because they talk about this all the time. They get really busy and they say, I need an assistant. And then they go and hire somebody, and then they try to train them up, and then it's a rush and so forth. And then it gets slow again, and they can't afford to keep the assistant. And I've always felt like, the reason I hire staff and I keep them around all year round is for those busy times, so we can meet that demand.
It's true. I think a lot of realtors too, when they first, sorry, I'm getting a text message.
One of the most frustrating things in my world when it gets really busy is people won't pick up their phone, or they don't answer their phone. So I need an urgent response, or we've got a subject removal date, and some, underwriters, they don't even have a phone number in their email. And so they just want an email, and it just feels like it goes off into never land.
And you don't have, if it's
no
really
control.
Angst inducing when you don't know if your email's been received, if it's in process. And they could be working on it, but if they don't tell you, you're just sitting there your stress levels are going like, what?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Next thing you know, Jane's telling you to do 10 jumping jacks.
Yeah.
I told Andrew to do 10 jumping jacks this morning to get himself, not jumping jacks, like extensions. Get your blood moving there, buddy. Okay. Let's start this show off today. Oh, okay. So we're going to do a mortgage update, a weekly update, and then we're going to do our stats review. Jen, how are things going?
Well, we kind of already discussed it's busy, very busy, which is great. Interest rate wise, hasn't really been any changes. It stayed the same as it was the last few weeks. No big movement on the fixed rates or variable rates at this time. But we're definitely needing a little bit more time for purchases to have that financing condition removed. And the waiting game I find is so hard, because in that mindset of, there's nothing wrong with the application. It's just an underwriter has not picked it up. So, yeah.
Do they have a quota at the beginning of the year? Like, is there a July, first quota where they have to get a number of approvals through?
Not that I know of. I mean, we're really like on an individual basis and on a brokerage basis, we need a certain number of approvals with lenders to keep our volume and interest rates that we're getting where we want them to be. And we have a certain funding ratio.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Are you saying that? So let's say you want to do Scotiabank, whatever you want people to go through Scotiabank. Scotiabank requires you to send them like 10 transactions before they give you preferred rates.
Potentially, yes. The brokerage that I work for is very large. So we get the preferred rates based on volume from previous years, et cetera. And I have a designated underwriter that just works on my file. So I don't have to go into a queue and wait for someone that I don't even know to pick up the file. So it's a huge benefit for people to work with a larger brokerage that does a lot of volume.
Oh, the things we learn. That's interesting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the banks know on which side their bread is buttered, I guess, right? So they are going to give their attention to the folks that are bringing them the most business. And if they don't, they're going to potentially lose that business. So this is all part of the background machinations of how these things kind of evolve. But it's interesting to hear.
Yeah, it makes a big difference for sure on, my confident level and, okay, I'm going to send this application to this lender, but they may have a slightly better rate, but I have no idea when I'm going to hear back and I can't pick up the phone and talk to anyone. I just have to wait to receive an email.
Right.
Versus someone that I have a relationship with, for example, the underwriter at Scotiabank, I can pick up the phone and say, hey, I've got this urgent file. Going to close in 10 days, can you pick it up? This is the dark art of the background of why people need to understand that the best rate isn't always going to get you to the finish line. Because it does have to do with relationship and service. And there's a wider picture to this. Because if you're working with a company that could give you a better rate, but that company's not giving you an approval in the time that's going to actually work out for your contract, or there's a chance you're not going to get that approval, you're taking a risk.
Also, you have your date that you need your financing for, and then you have the date that you need your financing.
Yes.
So you can
the
get
approval versus the money.
Yeah, you can get the approval, and then you can go and get the better rate with the mortgage broker you trust.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good strategy sometimes too.
That is true. You and I tell clients this all the time. You may not be happy with this rate, but you need the approval by this date. Otherwise, you're going to lose your purchase. But you've got another 2 or 3 months before you close on the property. So you, at that point, talk to your mortgage broker and get them to shop you around a little bit further. You have a firm approval already. So at least you're going to get the money. It may not be the best rate, but at least you've got the money.
I have a question regarding the 3-month notice on rentals. Is that still causing issues? No, like 120-day approval and all that. It's all good. Okay,
hasn't been an issue at all because it's always seems to have been taken into consideration with the closing date. So,
okay,
yeah, it was a problem when it was 4 months, but 3 months isn't so bad. Yeah.
Okay, so let's do the stats. Andrew,
awesome.
Go ahead.
Okay, so we are looking at the last 7 days versus the last 7 days before these last 7 days. So 265 new listings went on market.
7 days? When? What 7 days? Next 7 days?
In the last week, we had 265. Thanks, Jen. 265 properties go live on market. The week before that, we had 359. We had 151 properties. Oh, I hate this. My 151 properties went unconditional last week versus 189 in the week before, and 153 price decreases versus 161 the week before. 128 properties expired versus 48 the week before, and that stat is always skewed at the first of the month when we straddle the first of the month, because a lot of people do set their contracts to expire at the beginning of the month and mid-month. So what I am seeing, though, is a drop in new listings, but we also, again, had a long weekend, which tends to bring that number down as well, in my experience. Comments?
So I was expecting Monday to be slow because we were coming from a long weekend into Canada Day on Tuesday, and it was not slow. So I'm not saying there were new listings, but I'm saying there were lots of showings and offers. So I think it was a busy week. So that's interesting to me. Of course, we are looking at stuff that's 2 weeks old. The pendings are probably from offers made 2 weeks ago. So this is showing that June was a very active month, I think. The 189.
Well, and again, in this, the latest statistical release from the real estate board, they did mention this, that the stats for June are slightly up from May. And, this is generally a time of year that we're kind of starting to slow down. So the fact that it's actually, on par and maybe even just a little bit more active says to me that we are still going to, I think we are going to have a busy summer, busier than normal.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. And that
Jane
speaks
agrees with
to,
me, folks.
that speaks to our list to sale ratio of 56.98% this week over 52.65% the week before.
And
okay.
By the way, we've often been around a 50% ratio when we've been talking about these. Like, I feel like in the last few weeks, they've been closer to 50%. So this has edged up a bit.
Yep. Okay. Net unconditional sales, 761. These are the month to date statistics for June of 2025. That's compared to 661 for June of 2024. New listings were at 1,547. That's up over last year of 1,495. So that's like 10%. And total active listings were up at 3,778, and that's up from last year of 3,459. So again, we're having a trend towards more listings this year. Okay, so we're going to do the stats. So just following this, exactly what we were saying, you can see that there are seasonal fluctuations. May tends to be our biggest month in terms of total new listings, and we did follow that trend this year. However, June was up over last year, and what Andrew was saying, we're going to be trending, I think, towards more delayed spring, it feels like.
Yes.
More activity.
And you can see in the last couple of years where there's this down ramp after June to July, August, September that happened in 2023, and in 2024 it was a little bit bumpier, but it did go a bit of a down from July to August, June, July, August. I feel like that's our slope is going to be a lot less this year. Remains to be seen, but that's my prediction. We have had some years where the business just continues on through the summer. It doesn't really slow down.
What's interesting when you look at this, we have a block of new listings higher at the beginning of the year compared to last year in January and March. And then we're pretty consistent in April and May. In June, again, we have more listings, but the sales are actually pretty much on par with where they were last year, except for May, we're down a bit. Anyway, interesting. Okay. But June was up. Okay, total active listings, Andrew.
Yeah, so this is kind of looks like a couple of waves. It goes in. It's kind of an interesting shape, this one, but overall, you can kind of see the cycle of every year, and you can see in 2023 it was like a smaller, lower cycle, and then 2024 we had the number of listings reach a peak in June of 2024, and then start to come down. There was a bit of a spike again in September 2024, but then back down again, reached a low point that was higher than the previous low points. And here we are going up again. So our inventory has been growing over time as the tides are starting to rise. And I guess the global warming is also increasing our active listings. So we're at a higher point than we have in the last couple of years for active listings. And, again, we've been speculating we might hit a 4,000 number by the end of summer for active listings, which remains to be seen.
I think what we saw during June was a bit of pent-up demand. People finally deciding, okay, I better get going here. I have to move maybe before September. Let's get going. So I just found a
conversation. Sorry, go ahead, Jane.
I just found that people, my clients anyway, were like, okay, I need to make the move. So either they did the price decrease to get the house sold, or they did the price increase or they did the purchase to just make it happen finally.
Yeah.
Sometimes
I've had a conversation with a few different people from a few different directions there. It's about some of the chaos and the question of what's happening, and we talked about this in the past about what's happening with global news from the South, uncertainties around what's going on with tariffs and trade, but that always puts a pause on people. But then after a while, when the uncertainty is just kind of a common expected thing, people then get on with it and get over it because they realize they can only hold their breath for so long, and they move on to realizing, okay, well, the sky hasn't fallen yet. I still am not happy in the home I'm living in, or I've got this situation I need to do something about. If I wait for a perfect scenario for buying or selling, the perfect timing, that may never come. So I find there's shocks to the system, puts a pause on, but after a while, people come back to it. And that's kind of my impression of what's happened here with this spring.
It kind of reminds me of when somebody was interviewing Trudeau, and they said it was Thursday something, and they said, so Mr. Trudeau, what do you think of Trump's announcement today? And he goes, it's Thursday.
Yeah, it's just another Thursday. Yeah.
Anyway, okay, so our list to sale ratio, or our absorption rate, is still just a bit over 25%. So we are at a bit of a seller's market. So moving from balance to sellers again. So that happens, I guess. I don't know. We've been talking about this, but essentially 1 in 5 homes now, 1 in 4 homes is going to be selling. So don't expect your home to sell unless it's priced well. This is why we're seeing the price decreases. And you'll know based on the viewings if you're in the right price range, I think. Okay, single family homes. Andrew.
I mean, the pricing overall hasn't been sort of spiking or dropping. We did see a bit of a jump for this. This is an average price. I don't remember if this is average or median. Average prices. There was a spike in April 2025, but it brought back down. So I would kind of wipe that out and just say, we're on a slight rise overall. That being said, May to June came down. It was just a slight bit for pricing. I have to put my glasses on to see if that's a straight line or oh, it's a straight line. It hasn't gone down. There it is. Okay. So yeah, I think that we kind of are in a slight upward trend, but very, very mild upward trend for pricing.
Okay. And I was going to say, it feels like during COVID, we had kind of 2 bumps up. It feels like we've come down. I would say there was a slow release of air from the balloons, and now we're kind of steady.
Okay.
So, okay, condos, they have definitely come down. The board did talk about having a bit of a surge in the spring. That's true. and that was a good thing, because we definitely, one of the issues with our inventory right now is that we're a bit high on condos. A lot of people are trying to release their short-term rental condos that they bought that were in purpose-built buildings. Unfortunately, they're going, so those have been taking a bit of a hit. I know I just listed one last month. I listed it at the sale price of another recent one. We sold it within a week, but I see others languishing on the market. I got a call from an agent asking me how we got it sold, but it was a true one bedroom.
They can no longer sell based on their income potential from an Airbnb, which was why they were I won't say artificially inflated in price, but they were a higher price point than an equivalent property that was not able to Airbnb. And now they're on the same playing field, so they have to be priced accordingly as everything else in the market. My take on this was just that, prices have come down to the point where now buyers are starting to say, yeah, that looks good to me. For a while there, the condo market was really quite slow. But with the prices kind of softening enough, and now we're seeing some increase in condo sales, so they're coming back to the table. It tells me that we've reached a parity where the demand and the supply are kind of in equal footing.
Agreed. And I think it's, oh my God, I agreed with you again. I think you got to look at a price continuum and see where the activity is, and look where your place fits in, and be very cognizant of, even overpricing by $10,000 makes a big difference.
It really does, folks. And especially in a condo.
Yeah. I met with a client yesterday and they're like, I want to price it here. And I'm like, I really don't think that's the right place for you. And they're afraid of losing money. And I'm like, you're going to lose more money if you languish on the market than if you just price it right. Mm. So, okay, row townhouses. They've been fairly consistent, a little bit of a drop in December and January 2024, but otherwise we're pretty much on par with over the last 2 years at 850. So
yeah,
nice.
They've just cycled within that range between 800 and 850, and they've kind of stayed within their lane.
But it goes to show you, though, if you're looking for a deal, that maybe a good time of year to look is in the late part of the year. You may be able to take advantage of the market at that point.
Yeah, some motivation there.
Yeah. All right. If you guys like what you're hearing here and you want more information about what's going on in your neighborhood, don't forget to connect with us. Send us this to somebody who's maybe had a major change in their life and needs to know what's going on with the market. And don't forget to subscribe to us every week on our YouTube channel. And of course, we always love to hear your questions and comments. So please like and share. Andrew, how do people reach you?
Yeah, give me a call. I'm at 250-360-6106. Happy to hear from you. You can also text that number. My email, info@andrewplank.com, will reach me as well. And you can, if you want to check out the website, see videos and other information, I'm at www.andrewplank.com. I'm also with the Vibe Collective, a real estate group. We have the realvibe.ca website there with other resources as well. Out of breath after all that. Jen.
I am at Modern Mortgage Group. My cell number is 250-217-4925. Email jen@jenlow.ca, and my website is jenlow.ca.
And you can reach me. I'm Jane Johnston with the Briar Hill Group. My number is 250-744-0775. My email is jane@briarhillgroup.com. And you can see me and Sean Provencher at briarhillgroup.com. And don't forget to follow me about lifestyle in Victoria at realtyteacher_remax_Victoria or Briar Hill Group. All right, you guys, we are on every Thursday at 9:30. We will see you next week. Take care and have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye,
see you later. Bye, guys.
Bye.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. Just go to Indeed.com/PODKATZ13 right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.